Welcome to Progressive Movement Towards Christ Church, and I'm Pastor Keith, and I'm here to give you another sermon. I just want to tell you first that you can reach us at www.movementtowardschrist.com. That's www.movementtowardschrist.com, or you can listen to us at any podcast venue you listen to. Again, this is Pastor Keith, and I'm giving you a sermon on Disobedient Children. We'll be coming out of Ephesians 6, and I'll be reading out of NIV. And first, I just want to talk about, we as parents don't have a manual, don't have a book that tells us how to raise our kids. We have, of course, experience, but all children are different. So that experience with raising the first kid is not going to prevail on the second kid because all of them are different. You may have a bright kid that gets straight A's in school. You may have a kid that just won't learn and gets solid C's in schools or even fails in school. But you have to go about and take them to doctor's appointments, and they treat them for this, treat them for that, treat them for depression, treat them for anxiety, treat them for all sorts of things. And of course, couples are breaking up, and that causes a child to rebel and to just go or go in the shell, and those things are hard to deal with. So we take our kids to psychiatrists and therapists and you name it. But it's just hard to tell you how to raise kids. And the Bible doesn't interpret how to raise kids, but it tells you what not to do and what to do with your kids. Now, I'm going to be coming out of Ephesians 6. I'm going to read 1 through 8. And in the first verse, it reads, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. He's telling the children that they have to act through the Lord and obey their parents, for this is right. Remember, the Bible, the Word tells you between right and wrong, and there's no gray area, and that's right. That's what the children should do. Now, in 2 it says, "Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise." So he's telling the children to honor your father and mother, not disobey them, not call them names, not put them down, not hold them hostage, not say, "I'm going to call the social services if you don't do this for me. I'm going to tell someone if you don't do this to me." Lies saying, I'm going to tell them you hit me. You don't tell your parents that. You honor your mother and father. And that's in the first commandment. Now, 3 reads, "So that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on this earth." So God gives you a promise that if you do right by your parents, as the word says, then you would enjoy a long life on this earth. Whereas the judge, he will judge you if you don't do right by your parents, if you don't obey your parents. And parents, so you have to take your children to church and let them learn this in church as well as at home. Remember, a lot of people are talking about when children learn, and most people say, most scientists say that children learn most between ages of 1 and 5. And so if you don't take them to church to hear the word, then they would easily learn the word in church. Matter of fact, people tell you to read to your children, even though they cannot speak or you don't think they can understand. And this benefits the child. So why wouldn't you taking to church benefit them and help them in creating a righteous life for themselves. And of course, while you're in church, you learn too. You learn the righteous life. You learn the righteous way. You learn all about God. So it's a win-win situation. They learn, you learn, and we all shall live a longer life on this earth. Now in Ephesians 6:4 reads, Fathers, do not exacerbate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Now, exacerbate means, anger, and don't bring them up with anxiety. Don't pressure them. Bring them up in the Lord. The training, the instructions, the word. Bring them up that way. If you don't know how to do it, go to the book and read. And then teach your kids about the word and that the word is true. And instruct them that by believing in truth, they will live a good life in the Lord. And I think that's what's missing out of parents today. They want to play, with Dr. Spock and all those other child specialists and child therapists and all that, and do what they say. Don't leave them in the corner, but if they're 3, leave them in the corner for 3 minutes. If they're 6, leave them in the corner for 6 minutes. On and on and on. And, if you teach them right and wrong through the Bible, then they may not be in the corner. I've seen kids that just are great. They smile all the time. And they walk around smiling and they're so happy. And that's because they're being brought up right. They're being brought up in a happy marriage that starts with God. They're brought up in an environment where the parents don't fuss and fight. They're brought up in an environment where the Lord is their backing. And I've seen other kids that just rebel all the time. I've seen kids that curse and cuss and do all that because the people around them do the same thing. Kids imitate who they're around. And if their parents are cussing, smoking, and drinking, obviously they're going to pick up those traits. And they're going to begin to do that when they're old enough to do it. But, cussing, I've heard little kids of 4 and 5 that just barely talk or just started talking really well. And they cuss. And they call the other kids names. And they think it's right because their mother and father do it all the time. Call them names, call their other siblings names, call each other names, and they think it's right because their parents do it. So that's why we have to stay away from all those evils, all those sinful things, so we don't help our children go in that direction. And that's what we're doing. We're doing that day after day after day after day. Don't do as I do as I say. How can you hold yourself to this level and hold your child on a different level? If you hold each other under the level of God, under His Word, then they both will understand that if your parents don't do it, I guess we shouldn't do it. So they go to school and everybody's cussing and fussing at school, but their parents don't do it. So you don't see the children don't see a need for them to do it either, because you're taught by the Lord, and that cursing and blaspheming and all that is a sin. And you don't want to do sin, so you don't react and act like your fellow students in the school. You act like yourself because you're an individual, and God treats you as an individual because He knows thy name. He knows thy heart. He knows every hair on your head. And that's why they learn to be more like God, like we're instructed to, because we were made in His image, and we're supposed to act like Him as we are made in His image. Now, I'm going to read 5. And it says, slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Now, back then there were slaves. Now there aren't slaves right now, and but it's the same thing. You obey as a child. You obey your parents with respect and fear and sincerity of the heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor with the eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. So we can be slaves in the heart of God. We are slaves to God. So it says in 7, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one of whatever good they do, whatever they are a slave or free. So God rewards everyone. Even back then, if you were a slave or free, He rewarded everyone. If you treat other people from the goodness of the Lord's heart and from your heart. That's why we have to honor that's why children have to honor the mother and father. It's a commandment. It's a promise made to all free and all non-free people in the world. There's even the Jews, when He put them in captivity for 70 years, they weren't free. They were slaves. But He treated them as well as He treated them when they were free as when they were slaves. The only thing they did was lost control of themselves and were slaves to others. Now this is Pastor Keith, and please treat your children wisely. Treat them in the Word. Don't treat them in the instruction of the Lord. Don't go to a book and treat them like Dr. Spock or whoever wants you to treat your kids. Teach them the Bible. Take them to church. Take them to our Father. Again, it's Pastor Keith with Progressive Movement Towards Christ Church. You can reach me at www.movementtowardschrist.com. That's www.movementtowardschrist.com. And you can reach us at any podcast video you listen to. And just be good, be wise, and raise your children in the instruction of the Lord. Thank you.